listening in. I forgot we should not be talking about personal things because then it's going to be like how Nelson was singing karaoke the other day.
Oh, no, we'll just cut it out. It's fine. No worries. Yeah. No personal stuff. I mean, not that personal. Hey, you guys want to know my social security number?
It's 111-888-8888.
Yeah, they actually made it really easy for me. I was like, thanks, Social Security Office. I'll never forget this. You guys want to know my social security number?
It's 111-888-8888.
What's with that echo?
Oh.
Come on, after almost a year of hosting this, you know, we assumed that we would have gone better, but nah.
When I post live, it sometimes does it automatically, and then other times it doesn't. So that's why.
10-second lag.
Yeah, they keep updating it, so it's hard to keep up. This is Facebook.
Well, I haven't. It's okay. I haven't slept since yesterday 6 a.m. So if I'm a little whacked, it's all right.
What happened?
It's just I've been at work since 3 a.m. I literally just got off like, oh, actually, I'm not even done with work right now. But I can multitask.
I mean, yeah, I still up 3, also doing some work last night. Hey, Nick, welcome to the group. We can't see your face, though. Can we see?
Yeah, how's it going? Sorry, I'm setting up my camera right now. Give me a second here. Shoot, my audio's wrong, too.
No worries.
Let's see. What the heck? Hey there.
Whoa.
You still see me?
What's
I
up?
can't even see myself right now.
You are still a gray screen.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot.
I stop this. Hersh.
Thanks, man. It's all fake.
So is this. I don't know if you can tell. It's actually.
Oh, no, it's painted on your wall, Nelson. I can tell, man.
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. And he decided to go catch sunrise, it looks like, at Golden Gate.
That and it's better than looking at my dirty room.
Hey, trust me,
There
that's
we
that's
go.
why I have this up too.
I've got
reason
the
there.
$12 million view right there.
Love that. Absolutely. Oh, jeez.
I mean, this is weird. Like, why when I open my like video settings, it works, but seems to me it's not showing up on here. Let me
just
try
leave it
leaving it.
come
I'll leave and come back. 1 sec.
That should fix it.
It'd be hecka funny if it was because he put a sticker on the camera thing like I do.
Watch him have done that.
I do that all the time. I can't be the only one.
No, you're not. I do that all the time. I actually bought like they have those sliding things. You know what I'm talking about? Like where you can like
Why would
slide
you
it.
buy it? They're free in the mail. Like those junk mail stuff, they can send it to you.
Oh, well.
The sticky
Yeah.
post-it. But you're not a real Asian when you don't start utilizing your random stuff around the house.
Oh, yeah, well, it's all right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We can see you
Although you're
now.
missing half of your head.
Oh yeah.
When you turn, you
Please.
lose out here.
It's good old fat headphones here. No, it's a real background, I swear, you know. Hanging on Hawaii. Like
Well, one
Hershey.
of you guys are in Hawaii and one's in
I'm in
Florida, right?
Hawaii. He's trying to no,
I
I'm
blame
in
him.
Hawaii.
The Florida beaches are better than Hawaii, right?
If that's what you want to believe.
Yeah, sure. Good old
No,
panhandle.
my beaches are better. My San Francisco beach is better. You need to wear like a heavy winter coat.
Oh yeah. Even in the summer. No, I'm just kidding.
Classic.
Oh no, seriously. And even
Wait,
in the
really?
summer. Yeah. Do you know how cold it is? Like usually in June? It's like
No.
60s. It's really cool.
Oh wow.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, we're like when you think of California, we're in the fucked up side. The people
Yeah,
think
clearly,
we're
I
part of
didn't know
LA,
that.
but
Yeah.
like
The
yeah,
worst part of
Like-
California, right?
the fake part.
Yeah, I'm from Southern California. It's a different state.
No, we're like 65 all year round.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
visited
terrible.
in December. I was in not last December, but like a couple Decembers ago, I was in San Francisco, and it was like that. I had to wear a winter coat everywhere I went, but I didn't think
Yeah.
it was like that in the summer.
Yeah, well, summer is usually that. We just wear layers.
Yeah.
Yay, Peter's here. Hi, Peter.
Oh, hey, yeah, everyone.
Hey.
I'm looking forward to this. It's very interesting what you're doing, Nick. Oh, hey, Hirsch.
Hey, what's up?
Likewise. Thanks.
Especially this is something I've really never talked about or know much about. So I'm like, yes, excited.
It's a new
You know how
topic.
Asians like, yeah, it's in like a new wave for wealth. All right, run to it before the rest of the crowd comes in. Yeah.
I see you, Nelson. I see you. Just got the notification. That's why I'm calling you out.
Welcome, Dave. Hi.
We'll start in about a minute. Figured we can chat a bit, a little more, but how you guys doing out there? Did you guys close officially on those properties?
Yeah, those are closed. Those have been closed for about a month now. Yeah.
Were you out in the process of stabilizing them?
I guess still pretty
Um,
new. It's about a month in, right? So we're slowly leasing up.
Actually, so we're in the middle of demolishing some of the shell homes. So some of those older depreciating assets that just didn't make the park look good and they just couldn't be sold. I mean, they're uninhabitable basically. So, we're removing those shells and bringing on newer homes in the next year or so. So
Okay. Who's your property manager out there? I imagine you guys.
our partners actually own the property management firm. So they're the ones spearheading the operations, which is really, really nice. But we're just kind of in the loop on things, which is good too.
Okay, well, 7:05, let's get started. I want to give a quick warm welcome there. You mentioned it already, but this is Nick Vu Hersh Rai. Hersh is a managing partner of Rival Capital, where he focuses on acquisitions and investor relations. They currently have 3.6 million assets under management with a portfolio of 114 units, mostly in the residential side. So he helps use multifamily and mobile park investing to get that cash flow and get that financial freedom we're all going for. And then beyond that, he's also an active duty naval officer specializing in meteorology and oceanography. Hersh has a dual BS in computer science from the United States Naval Academy. Wow. How's Annapolis? Did you go for the full 4 years?
We did it. We both did the whole thing. Yep.
Yeah. He's also got his MS in computer and information technology from Purdue. So it's pretty impressive what you guys are doing, man. Nick is currently stationed in Pensacola, Florida. Nick has his BS in mechanical engineering from the Naval Academy, and then an MS in mechanical engineering from Purdue. So I figured I gave a quick intro, but could you guys sort of explain what it is that y'all are doing in mobile home parks?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first we want to thank you, Nelson and Annie, for having us on. It's a pleasure to be here. Just to start off, Nick and I basically both met while we were at the academy briefly, and then we were roommates at Purdue and got into real estate when we realized we had way too much time on our hands than compared to while we were at Annapolis. Being some pseudo civilian is what I like to call it. I'm in Hawaii right now. Nick's in Pensacola, but Nick can kind of dive into how we really got started into mobile home parks.
Well, I guess mobile home parks in particular is kind of by chance. I think Hirsch was starting to look at because I was looking at places to live in Pensacola, like thinking about buying a house here. And I think he came across like a 7-pad mobile home park, and he first got under contract, having no idea of the space or what to do with mobile home parks in general. We just heard it's a good asset class with a good cash flowing asset, but we had no experience at all. But like, hey, it's small enough that we could probably dive into it. So we had it under contract, and then we tried to find, I guess, management for that mobile home park. And then I think Andy kind of alluded to this, but like finding management companies for a mobile home park is a challenge. It's definitely difficult to come by, especially something that small, like a 7-pad. Like no one wants to manage that. It's kind of hard to come by. So I started reaching out to like people in bigger pockets, say, hey, can anyone manage this kind of stuff? And that's how I came across this first mobile home park. And then we also had a cold calling campaign that was calling different apartments and also mobile home parks here in Pensacola. And she actually came across another mobile home park. So we kind of like saw, hey, these two mobile home parks are like within a couple miles of each other, like pretty easy if we take them both under contract and we kind of manage them together, because the economies of scale could definitely be helpful there. So we kind of reached out to our network. We have a buddy who's also in real estate, and he got us connected to these two operators here in Pensacola. They're also former military, who do real estate full time, and they're the company who has that product management firm. They have a few mobile home parks here in Pensacola. We just reached out to them. I first showed them the deals, and then these two deals are screaming deals apparently that we didn't really realize at the time. So they like, hey, first we showed them the numbers, and literally that same cause, like, submit an offer right now. So we submit that offer, LOI gets accepted, and yeah, the rest is history, I guess. I got these two bad boys under contracts portfolio. One's a 54 pad. It's fully stabilized. It's essentially has brand new homes. It's all tenant owned. It's city water sewer, I believe, and has paved roads. While the other one is a huge value add. It's essentially 50% occupied with some broken down homes, completely rough. It's, I think, still septic. It's no paved roads, but there's a lot of potential in this one because the rents are super low. Also, the proximity to this other park, to see, like, I guess honestly kind of like a model of what we want to bring this park to. Like, hey, fully stabilized, all tenant owned, brand new homes. That's what we kind of want to bring this second park to. And yeah, I guess Trish, you want to add anything?
No, I think you just about covered it. More than happy to hop into this, Nelson and Annie, and just hit the ground running. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do I sound better, by the way? I've been told I sound like trash. Is this?
You sound great. I don't know what people are saying. You sound like a superstar.
Wow. Oh my God. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course.
It's a karaoke night next week, so I hope you're going to show up for that. Okay. Yeah. So that's great. Could you circle back on how you found the deal, and like what sort of things do you have to worry about when you're buying mobile home park compared to, say, like a multifamily?
Sure. So I can hop into that. So like Nick alluded to, Nick essentially wanted to utilize his VA loan in Pensacola to buy a property. I got sidetracked while he was doing his thesis defense. I decided to look at mobile home parks, came across a 7 pad, realized this thing cash flows insanely well. You know, like we're talking like 20+% cash on cash with just destroying the deal with expenses. And I was like, all right, I want to buy this thing. It was like $150,000, you know, not that big of a property. And so we ended up, you know, finding an attorney, putting him under contract. And I was like, all right, how are we going to manage this thing? I have no idea how to manage a mobile home park. I don't know how to operate it. We were clueless, and we just put this thing under contract, right? Just a little bit over ambitious. So obviously went on bigger pockets. I had a member message me and he said, hey, it's really hard to come by any type of property management that's going to actually manage this park for you. And if they do it, they're probably not going to do a very good job. I have a mobile home park that I'm looking to sell in Pensacola. Do you want to buy it? So I'm like, okay, let's talk. So he's like, yeah, it's a 54 pad. Come to find out, he's a member of our alma mater. So he actually also went to Annapolis, and he just happened to own a park in the area. So we were really able to build that connection and leverage it, and actually got a lower price than they were looking for, which is awesome. So that was the first property we found. And then the second one that Nick mentioned was we were running a simultaneous cold call campaign in the market. And it's just so happened that one of the leads was a mobile home park. It didn't click with us at the time. I think it was just one of those leads. We were like, oh, it's a mobile home park, whatever. We're not gonna look at it. But we looked at it. It was like a 3 to 5 minute drive away from this property. So we're like, okay, it's going to be 98 pads, economies of scale. Like Nick mentioned, the payroll is going to be the same exact amount that it is going to be for both parks. They can handle both. One of them is a fully tenant. One of them is a stabilized asset. One of them is a extreme value add asset. When I say extreme, it's like with asterisks, like definitely extreme. But things to look for, like you mentioned, Nelson. One, what's the spread of those parks, right? So are they all tenant-owned homes where you're not responsible for the maintenance, the insurance, the upkeep of the home, or are they park-owned where you're basically responsible for that home and that depreciating asset like you are with a multifamily, except a multifamily appreciates, mobile homes depreciate. It's like a car. When you first buy it off the lot, it loses 25% of its value right when you drive off. And so that's something you have to look for. You have to also look at utility spread. So, is this city water sewer? Are they submetered? Is this a well? Is this a wastewater treatment facility? Is it a lagoon? You guys can go look up what a lagoon is. It's absolutely disgusting. You usually find them in the Southeast. Just things like that, right? What kind of utility spread there is. Definitely want to look at what market fundamentals are. It's a completely different tenant base for the mobile home park than you have with a multifamily. Just for reference, mobile home parks are, on a star system. So it's a 5-star through a 1-star versus a class A through class D in the multifamily. So like your 5-star parks are like your LA type, really bougie palm tree amenities. Like we don't buy those, right? Because we don't have institutional level money.
It's not even mobile home parks at that point. You're just vacationing outside.
Yes, exactly. So we usually find the 2- and 3-star parks more so your C class, but the tenant base comes with its own difficulties, right? I mean, some people are really good and they pay on time, but some people, there is going to be drug uses, there's going to be paraphernalia of that sort. We won't get into all the headaches that come with it, but
okay. I found my own. So you guys collect cash through your PM, I'm guessing. What's sort of like, I guess when you collect, what is that collection rate? Is it slower? And like, how often do you put late fees compared to say like, something you'd see in multifamily?
Yeah. So I think what we have structured right now, at least with our management agreement, is the fully stabilized park. There's actually an online portal where tenants can go and pay online, but we've also set up a system. I don't necessarily know all the details, but essentially the tenants can go to Walmart because a lot of them shop at Walmart, and they'll basically submit a check, which will essentially put in a money order to pay us to the account directly via direct deposit. So like that's there. It's like a couple of extra bucks for them, but that's fine as long as we get the money. Collection rates, I don't think there's anything different. I mean, again, for these 2 parks that we own, I think we were at 100% this past month based on what our partners told us. But I don't think we have any insight into what the late fee structure looks like because we're still turning over to our leases, to our base. We're honoring current in place leases, but we're still waiting to turn over. I think some of them are expiring this month. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so then Vince asked, he actually lost connection. How did you find the deal again? And I'm gonna say, go to Annapolis, join the military. That was it. It was through Alumni Connection, right? How did that work out too? When I guess besides the alumni, I'm guessing you guys had a lot to bond over and just be like, hey, by the way, I heard you're selling. You want to give me a discount? But
That's kind of what he did, actually.
really,
He got $50,000 off just for the connection.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then how much was the whole thing worth then?
So the whole portfolio was 2.65 million.
65. Okay.
Yeah. So we bought the one park, the stabilized park, for 1.65. That was a Fannie Mae loan type. And then the other one was just like a cheap bridge debt for about 1 million for the 44 pad. So that was definitely undervalued. But we're going to increase the value and stabilize this thing. So
right. So you're doing a shorter term bridge loan, and then are there agency loans?
It's not exactly a bridge loan. It's more of like a local bank connection that got us really good terms on a commercial loan with like interest only and
got it
and renovation costs. But we're kind of treating it like a bridge debt because I think they only charge like if when we refinance it in a couple of years, there's like no prepayment penalty.
Got it.
So
yeah, for everyone curious,
debt,
in commercial real estate, you have this thing called a bridge loan, which is a temporary loan you use for a property that's not up to par, so that you can eventually transition it into a loan that's more stable and has a lower interest rate. So that's that's kind of the basis. Okay, so then can you explain how you did the cold calling side? Like, did you hire somebody? Did you do it yourselves? What was this campaign?
Yeah, so the the cold call campaign, we hired a VA out of the Philippines. Okay, surprise, surprise.
Nice.
And
which company?
I don't know, actually. I don't know what company it is. I would need to run back. We've been using them for a while, so I don't really keep in touch. It's like pretty automated at this point, where it's like, hey, we give them a list and they do it. But she basically just went through all the numbers. She called. She determined which ones had soft leads of saying like, hey, they want to sell. And then from there, Nick and I would pick up the relationship and, with at least a little bit more reciprocity and say, hey, what's going on? And actually, funny story, it turns out the second seller was in the military for like a number of years. He wasn't an Annapolis grad, but he was in the military. He was like, oh, you guys are young. What are you guys doing buying commercial? And we're like, I mean, hey man, like this is what we're doing. So we had the
Scales
opportunity to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nick had the opportunity to meet him and establish a connection with that. We were able to leverage that to close on that deal as well. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. Okay. So how much did you guys cash flow from this each month? Are you guys making minimum wage now? Like what's the sitch on 100? I don't know what 100 looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, so for the first year, it's going to be negligible. It's like little to no returns, maybe around that 0 to 1%, just because basically the one stabilized park is paying for the other park right now. And what I mean by that is the other park just does not have the yields or the returns that we want to see until it's stabilized. So, until we bring those new homes in and until we really are able to spruce up the infrastructure in terms of landscape management, newer roads, new infrastructure, it's not going to look as good until probably year 2. But the projected annual cash on cash for this deal is hovering right around 13 plus
Okay. Gotcha.
for investors, and then the equity multiple is about 2.2.
Got it. Yeah, that's actually kind of what we're seeing out in Chicago, but there's also like Southside Chicago. It's not. Yeah, I mean,
It's not
it's fine.
attractive.
Yeah, it's the same tenant base pretty much. If we're getting to it, but the nice part is we can actually get agency loans. I'm assuming you can only keep getting local loans from your banks instead of like the stable government ones.
So, like I said, on the one, we got the Fannie Mae product because that was fully stabilized. Yeah, so we did get
gotcha.
So you can get stabilized, and the goal is to eventually get into that, but you need to have like all tenant-owned homes, at least 90%, and you have to have there's a lot of different things that go into mobile home parks. We've realized with seeking a Fannie Mae type agency loan versus just traditional bank debt. We learned the hard way, but it's okay.
Gotcha. Who's so the way this deal is structured, who did you co-sign with? Was it the property managers? Because I'm assuming if you guys haven't had the experience, how did you guys get the sign off for the loan?
Yeah, we with those two, I kind of mentioned before that the two military guys who do this full time now. They help sign the loan. So I guess it's our first Fannie Mae loan, and also they have plenty of holdings and experience that their net was surpassed what we needed for this deal.
Nice. Okay, that's pretty good then. So then what did you have to do in terms of renovations on the stabilized one, and what sort of work? I know you mentioned earlier you're going to update part of the land, but from what sounds like, how many of those units do you have to turn over, and how many can you really do at a time in terms of
Yeah, so I guess for the stabilized park, it's I guess it's all brand new homes. So we're working on the program that it's kind of works like a bank that purchases these brand new homes and then sells them directly to the I guess the tenants themselves. So like that, there's not much value added. I think we're gonna update some signage, do some landscaping, some minor stuff for that park. For the other park, the one that's super, I guess, needs a lot of love. Hersh already kind of mentioned it, but we're gonna demolish the old ones that we can't sell because I don't know if you know, but there's a recent hurricane probably a few months ago, probably close to last year here in Pensacola, Florida, that destroyed a lot of the homes. So they're straight up unlivable. They're just sitting there looking ugly. So we just paid to clean it up, open up those pads for new homes, and then the ones that are salvageable, we're trying to sell them off. For the actual numbers, I'm not exactly sure how many we own.
Let's just say there's about half that need to be either demolished or sold off in the other park. So it's about 22 of 44. Thus the high vacancy factor and negligible income from that.
Do you need flood insurance on mobile home parks?
So this is actually a good question. This is a great question. So you do need flood insurance, but that's why the goal is to transfer ownership from you as the park owner to the tenant as the homeowner, because that way they're responsible for getting their insurance. If we get flooded, we're only responsible for our infrastructure in the land if we don't own the home, right? If they get flooded and they don't have flood insurance, that's not my problem to deal with. Again, we'll try to assist them the best we can, to make sure that they have an enjoyable experience, but it's
getting flooded.
It's liable on them. Right.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Actually, a lot of these parks actually bought, even they owned the homes, they didn't have any insurance on the homes themselves. Because I actually talked with one of the owners. He said that these homes are probably less than 50,000 or tens of thousands. Like, I mean, so the older ones might be even less, like 10,000 or less. he said that it's probably cheaper or I don't know, if they get destroyed, he's gonna demolish and get rid of it instead of like making insurance pay for it off. So for
Gotcha.
like one of the parks, they only had liability insurance and no other property insurance, which
Mm.
is I mean, Fannie Mae definitely requires more additional insurance, which gets some stuff covered like business rent and in addition to that liability. But for mobile home parks, we see a lot of those are mom and pop owners, and they get the bare minimum liability insurance to cover their parks.
I wish there's a way to like look up people who are buying and like, or who don't have insurance on their properties. Cause like, I recently found something in Austin. It was like a 42 unit and, the owner was selling it because they got wrecked by the freeze and tried to save money by not buying insurance. So now they couldn't fix like a tenth of their units. So, that was, I just wish there was like a way to pull a list. And on that subject, how did you get your list for the cold calls down in Pensacola?
Yeah, I can hop into that. So we have a VA who will essentially go through and identify properties. So we essentially tell the VA, and there's multiple companies or VAs who VA is a virtual assistant, by the way, for anyone who's new to that. We essentially tell them, hey, this is what we're looking for in the market. We basically say, hey, we're looking for mobile home parks in Pensacola, Florida. Here are the counties that we want you to focus on. Go find all the mobile home parks, right? And then from there, they'll find them. We'll hire someone else to skip trace them, get the owner name information, business name information, contact information, things of that sort. And then from there, we'll cold call. So that's how we get our list. It's all organic, custom made lists. We don't pull from like Reonomy or List Source, or, we don't pay exorbitant amounts of money for CoStar. We do everything organically and try to keep everything customized for what we like to do.
Oh, wait, you guys don't like Reonomy? That's where I've been pulling my sources from.
Which is fine. I mean, we just don't pay for it.
Oh, okay.
Nothing against it. Nothing against it.
Oh, me neither. If you guys need help pulling lists, I got you. They have a 7-day free trial, and then my background's programming. So I built a script that can go through a whole lead per 3 seconds. So if you have I have like 1,000 per city right now that I just don't have time to cold call through at this point. That's actually the hard part, is figuring out what do I do with all these leads.
You can also talk to you about that.
We'll talk with you about
if
that.
you want.
Yeah. Just all I need is a phone number, and I have it for 7 days to pull any data you guys need. So
That's awesome.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Lisa's right. I should get a VA for that. Okay. Vince followed up and asked, what are the terms like for your Fannie Mae loan?
Oh, this is a good question. We actually had to look at the loan terms the other day. So our loan terms.
Just pulled it up, dude.
Okay, yeah, you go for it, Nick.
Why not? So we will get Fannie Mae is 30 years. You got a 10-year loan, fixed term, about 4.56, I guess, for our interest rate. I guess one thing caveat there is that Fannie Mae loans, agency loans, I think if you have worked before, the rate's not locked till pretty much you close, maybe the day before you close. So we were quoted 70 basis points lower than what we actually got. So we actually, during the time period of due diligence and closing, it increased 0.7% throughout the whole of it, which really hurt us towards the end, but it's the reality of working with Fannie Mae and agency debt. But they got pretty solid terms, 4.6% for a mobile home park. I think it's pretty solid. That's my opinion.
How much down is that?
It was it 25% down?
Yeah, it was a 75% loan to
75%
value.
loan value.
And then also, how did you guys get with the loan part? Because I'm more used to Fannie Mae with the 1 to 4 units. And then when you buy investment properties, they ask for leases and all that. So how are you going to do that with so many families?
Yeah, so they still ask for leases, ask for financials, like your T12, your rent rolls. They ask for things like collections. They even ask things like occupations of the people. So there's a lot of information. We honestly didn't have everything, so it's kind of a lot of back and forth between us and our mortgage broker to collect everything. So it's a hard process. There's a lot of documents you need to send over. I think I'll see every single month, and it's a lot. It's pretty much of a giant checklist that they want to see where you got to send everything, and a lot of back and forth, like LLC documents or various things like that. So it's
How long
definitely a
did that loan
challenge.
process take then?
Yeah.
Like a year?
No. So that took
3 months maybe.
About 3 months. Yeah, I think a lot of delays occurred due to that lending piece. I think we had underestimated what the amount of information and need was. No offense to the provider we use, Greystone Cuff, but not sure if
Ooh,
we'll be
calling
using
them out.
them. Yeah, not sure if we'll utilize their services again. But I mean, they were great. I just think it was just a lot of back and forth, and there was some miscommunication between seller, buyer, loan, and lender. So.
And then how do you
That's,
guys do the appraisals or the inspections for these?
So for
Yeah,
appraisal, like the appraiser actually flew out to check the properties. He walked out and looked at it himself. For inspections, I guess for the tenant-owned homes, you don't do any inspections besides doing maybe a walkthrough of the exteriors. For the ones we did own, we didn't really hire an inspector. We just walked it ourselves, check it out, see what's needed. I mean, because I guess the goal is essentially to have all tenant-owned homes. So I guess as long as conditions are pretty decent, we're not too worried about it.
And then actually on the Fannie Mae side, like, do they require you to have the inspection?
They require things like
Yes.
environmental inspections and appraisal,
survey.
so like survey as well, stuff like that. But not like your typical. What I think of inspections, like get an inspector to check the insides of the homes. That's not required for the Fannie Mae loan.
So how do you guys navigate like those environmental stuff when this is all new to you guys? You guys barely bought like any multifamilies and you just jumped right into mobile parks.
I guess we kind of leaned on our partners a lot. The ones who had experience. I think they have now 6 properties in the area. Correct me, maybe it's 4 or 5.
7.
They have a few mobile home parks in the Pensacola market, and they've gone full cycle of deals before. So like we kind of trusted their intuition. Like they kind of spearheaded a lot of the I guess management, the like inspection and stuff.
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
more of an assistance role there.
I'm doing the same thing in Chicago right now. I'm having some people like really quarterback for me that I would otherwise never be able to sign on or do myself. So how did you meet these property managers? And another follow-up question actually on that, for the property managers, they said 7 units was too small. Is there like a size that it's like a minimum before it's worthwhile to hire property management?
So let me give you some insight into property management. All right. These guys are owner operators. They're not a property management firm. They own their own property management firm that handles all their in-house property management. You call the property managers, they won't like you. So I'm not, all right. So just want to put that out there. They actually instantiated their own property management company this past January. So it was actually right in time for this acquisition, which was really great. They just realized that with the mobile home park space, it's not easy where you can contact 5 to 10 property managers in a market, interview them, and determine what their business model, what their niche is, with like similar to a multifamily or residential. So the management is extremely intensive, and we had co-signed with these guys knowing that they were owner operators who had known how to execute this type of business plan and style, and knowing the market the best out of all 4 of us. So
How much in fees are they taking?
They have an asset management fee of 1.5%, and then the actual management, they have someone on payroll paid for by the property, but they're not taking any management fee themselves, I don't believe.
Got it. Okay. So then what's, I guess, payroll upper, mobile and like multifamily, usually it's like, oh, you have a 200 unit apartment complex, that's 3%. What about mobile home parks? Like, what do the rates look like for property management?
It's similar, but again, right, I think with most mobile home park owners, especially for something of that size, you want someone who's going to be at the property living there full time, instead of like, hey, this is your 9 to 5. You can come in at 9, leave at 5. Like with mobile home parks, things go down and at all hours of the night. With whatever you want to think about that, you can. But usually you want to have multiple people on the payroll versus a fee base, and then the fee base might be allowing them to live on site. Giving up 1 or 2 of the trailers. Plus the office for them to complete their work in. So.
Yeah, how do you pick the head tenant that I guess then, so they're living on site. Are they like professional property managers, or are you still finding someone that's like a tenant and asking them, do you want to become like the number 1 tenant?
Yeah, so for this one specifically, we actually do have a professional property manager, but they're not living on site just because one of them is already fully stabilized. But they are making, daily to almost daily runs every other day to the other property to make sure that the business plan's getting transacted and we're able to actually demolish those homes and things like that. But I mean, I'll give an example though. I mean, for a park, let's just say there's 115 park in the middle of Gary, Indiana. No, even Warsaw, Indiana. Okay. This is like middle of nowhere, right? Maybe 5,000 people population. All right. You're not going to find someone who's going to be a professional property manager who's going to drive 2.5 hours from Chicago or an hour, 2 hours from Indy to drive out there. So you're going to need to find someone who's either well-versed in handyman work or has a really good relationship with all the tenants to hire as your property manager. So like, again, it's not a very sophisticated asset class in terms of management. And that's why it's very difficult for people to find time to invest into it.
That makes sense. Okay. So then I guess once you, yeah. So then once you have this, you're going to stabilize. What's next? You guys looking for probably, like mobile home park number 3? Like where is this at? Where's this going towards? Are you looking to focus on it? Like, or trying to get back to multifamily?
Nick has that answer.
I guess we like both, like our goal is always to keep expanding. Like next steps, I guess we have like 2 properties on contract now, but they're multifamily. But we just want to keep expanding, whether it's build our networks, build our holdings. Mobile home parks, I mean, we kind of fell into it. It's a really nice niche. We're not married to it. Like we really like the space, so we definitely want to find more mobile home parks in the future as well. I think like now that we've closed on these 2, like a lot of brokers have sent us mobile home park deals in particular. Honestly, whatever makes sense. If it's a mobile home park deal, apartment deal, even willing to open to dive into other asset classes if it makes sense. Just kind of diversify, I guess, in multifamily space here. But I guess next steps is keep expanding, work through our cold calling, or hopefully acquire something in either Indianapolis or here in Pensacola.
Got it. Okay. Follow-up question. So when y'all have mom and dad owners, like mom and pop, they usually have terrible documentation. What do you do when you have a T12 to work with, especially
Okay.
when your bank's like,
Yeah, so that's a good question. If you have a mom and pop type owner, especially for these mobile home parks, just assume you're not going to get Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac debt right away. I mean, again, like 99% of the time, there's going to be some kind of HUD issue, housing and urban development with the park, the infrastructure. There's mainly going to be park owned homes because there's more cash flow involved, even though there's a higher expense ratio, even though they're deferred assets. There's a lot that kind of adds on, but I'd say when we do look at parks, and they are primarily all in the size range that we look at, mom and pop owned, we have a lot of per unit market assumptions that we make. So for example, right, I mean, for multifamily, your usual insurance expenses anywhere from $300 to $350 a unit, right? As long as you've underwritten some multifamily, that's what you usually use. For mobile home parks, for a tenant owned, it's probably going to be about 100 to 125, just because you don't have to pay for anything except the liability and the general purpose insurance for the land and the infrastructure. But if you own the home, it's probably going to be closer to that 400 to 500, just because it's a depreciating asset and it's older. Now, again, depends on the age of the home, the vintage, when it was made, and what the final output of the final finishes of the product. But things like that are what you have to look out for.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. You got any other questions, Annie? I think I covered a lot of it. Feel free to jump in, y'all, too. We're a little light today. I think everyone went to the meetup that we had scheduled an hour after this. So,
Hey, I got a couple of questions. What's the maintenance and capex like for tenant owned parks, like on the infrastructure?
Sure. So Vince, I think it really comes down to what your utility spread is and what kind of amenities you're offering at the park. So if you have city water sewer, you might only be responsible to maintain those lines every 15 to 20 years because they're in good shape, right? Unless you have like pre-copper-esque piping or something like of that sort.
Right.
But otherwise, if you have septic or water waste treatment facility, you're going to need to, empty that septic yearly, maybe even semi-annually, to make sure that, the tenants aren't putting their waste everywhere on the park and things like that. So, but in terms of repairs and maintenance, it's minimal, right? You're not going to have to do anything inside or outside of the home. Again, right, when they sign that lease to rent a space on your land or on your park, you want to make sure that you say like, hey, you have to cut your own grass, you maintain your own yard, your own space. but mainly the costs are pretty low for you in comparison to like a traditional multifamily. I mean, the expense
Right.
ratios on these parks at tenant owned full capacity run around 30 to 35%. So
What does that mean? Expense ratio 30 to 35%.
okay, so I got it, Nelson. That's cool. But let's say your income's $100
Yeah.
and your expenses are $35. So you have a 35% expense ratio, right? So for okay.
Okay, no, I got it. But I mean, so even on the tenant-owned homes, like roads, electric, pipes, you're looking at 35%.
Yes, correct.
Gotcha.
Also, you're not usually including capital expenditure like roads. You're usually including maintenance maybe of the roads, but you're not including the cost of building out the road. The expense ratio is how much it costs to keep it operating, not how much it costs to get it started and ready to go. But yeah, 30% is super low. Like in apartment complexes, multifamily, it's usually like 45 to 55%, depending on how old the building is and, you know, a bunch
Right.
of other things.
Gotcha.
It includes things like not just maintenance, but like payroll, taxes, insurance,
Oh, wow.
stuff like
Okay.
that. So like maybe landscaping or various things like that. So pretty sure all your expenses in total will be 35%. It doesn't include your debt service. So that's actually paid after your you subtract
Right.
that, which kind of decreases more, but it's your ultimate cash flow is your income minus expenses minus debt service and minus any fees you have.
And if you get 10% or double digits, you know, it's already pretty good. So
Yeah.
are you guys giving a double digit pref for your investors then? If
No,
No?
absolutely not. No.
yeah, how are you guys structuring it actually? I'm curious.
It's 60-40 equity split, 60 to the limited partners, 40% to the general partners with a 9%. So we barely gave them the 10%, the double
Wow.
digit. But
Okay.
yeah.
Wow, and you still got away with it. Yeah. We're doing 30-70 with a 10 pref on
Woo!
our next
Whoa!
project. But
Oh,
it's Southside Chicago, so it's not
okay. Okay.
let's calm down now, you know. It's
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that's pretty cool. And then so when you guys are going through the process, is it like any other syndication or is it like do you have other special things involved because it's like a rare asset when you're trying to teach investors or guess sell to them?
Yes, absolutely. The self-education and teaching what mobile home parks are very difficult because the first thing, at least anyone who has some notion of what a mobile home park is, they think of either Trailer Park Boys, the show. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Or they think of like just rundown trailers, you know, drug usage, very low income type neighborhood-esque. But you know, what we tell them is, you know, we're not buying that product. We're not buying the D-class asset of mobile home park. We're not buying one-star parks, right? We're buying, you know, pure workhouse affordable housing for low income areas that subsidize the blue collar workforce, right? That's what we buy because we believe in the manufacturing
Affordable
industries. Yes,
housing,
affordable. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So blue collar then, this mobile home park, do you know what the nearest sort of jobs are? Like when you're targeting, I've heard there's usually less and less mobile home parks every single year. So like, I feel like you can't really be that picky when it comes to choosing them, but do you have a specific anchor that you like to show people like, oh, we're near a Walmart, you know, like,
Yeah.
does that improve the value of your mobile home park? Like,
Yes,
the
it
location
does.
is perfect. Like I mean, these mobile parks are right on. I don't know if people know in Pensacola. It's called a 9 mile drive, but it's like a pretty big. Is it 4 lane or something? But like a pretty big street. One of the main streets in Pensacola, where like there's a lot of restaurants. There's literally for actually right next door to the mobile park is a Winn Dixie, I believe. Pretty sure a big like grocery store that people go to, and people actually sometimes walk to the park to get there. But I think they just recently added a gate to prevent that from happening. But I mean, it's right next to a lot of like, think of all your restaurants, like they used to say like the 9 mile drive used to be like almost like the previous, like downtown or kind of like the spot where like a lot of big businesses, like with the restaurants, bars, and these grocery stores are. So location is great, and I don't know one big employer is like the Navy Federal. Like hires a lot of people in Pensacola. There's a lot of mean, there's a lot of military in this area, not necessarily tenants, but it's another big economic driver, I guess. I think it's pretty mixed. Like, I guess it is predominantly blue collar, working house people. I'm not sure anything to add there.
How do you
Yeah.
find? Oh, sorry.
No. That's good. That's good.
I was gonna say, how do you find tenants? You're just kind of describing your base, but it's like, who do you go on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist? Like, what's?
So here's the thing with mobile home parks, everyone. They're unsophisticated, right? So just even the most basic thing of having a website that looks like it was made in 1997 on Windows 97 gets you traction. And what I mean by that is people in this space are just looking for places to live. I mean, Pensacola has an affordable housing shortage right now. I mean, I think when they were doing the walkthrough, Nick, quote me if I'm wrong on this, but there was someone who drove through the park and asked the inspecting team if they owned the park and asked if there was any availability. Like, that's just how much demand comes through. And there's consistently people looking to monitor. So as long as you have somewhat of, like a Facebook page or some kind of media presence online, you're more likely to find your tenants. And that's usually how you find them. So.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm gonna let Annie follow up on this now. She has a question.
No, I'm like half asleep, but I've been up too many hours. That's why I'm typing my questions so I don't sound like a stupid idiot.
No worries. I can put the words in your mouth. Do you want me to explain your question for you, or you got this?
Let's see if I have enough energy.
Oh, did she cut out?
Yeah, that's it. So
Oh,
we'll hop into it.
Okay. Yeah. So question is, what are you going to do with the property with the septic tanks? You're gonna like directly connect that to the city at some point, or you're just gonna replace it? How do you handle it?
I mean, so number one rule, if you're buying value add, don't add all the value, right? So so I think what we're planning to do is we're gonna stabilize the. Did Annie's camera freeze again? Because okay, all right, we're good. She was, yeah. So I think the main thing we're looking to do with this park is essentially get all the tenants to buy their own home and stabilize. We're just going to maintain the upkeep of these septic tanks. I don't think we're planning on removing them anytime soon, but if the next investor wanted to buy the park and, replace it and hook them to city water sewer, they can. The hookups are there. It's just very expensive, as you can imagine, to dig up septic tanks, remove them, put in new piping, put in new infrastructure to connect to city lines. I mean, yeah, it's a great business model, but I think for now we're just going to maintain the upkeep and empty them as we need to every year.
Have you considered starting a hole digging company?
No.
You guys could do the value add yourself. I don't know how much it costs, but I can't imagine, because it's like, isn't Florida, all the dirt is super loose anyways? So is it that hard to just,
Get a shovel and just dig around
yeah,
holes? It's a good workout, just every day. Just come there a few hours.
You can hire Shia LaBeouf if you really wanted to.
Exactly. Yeah. I've heard if you like just partner with a local prison, you could just really, develop some great synergies. And
yeah, you'll maximize your returns that way.
You maximize your returns for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So quick question then, how big are these individual units that you guys are renting out?
Yeah, so that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick.
They're mostly 3-2s, like 3 bedrooms, 2 baths.
1,200 square feet.
Yeah, so like somewhere like majority single wide, but there are a couple of like double wides on there too, I believe. Like your traditional size. I forgot exactly the dimensions, but they're nice homes. Like if you ever see the pictures of these homes, they're actually pretty decent, I'd say, for the new ones at least.
Gotcha. So what is your timeline for this project? How long before you sell? And what sort of buyers are you going to go to with this?
Yeah, so we're projecting a 5-year exit at around an 8% cap rate, which is still pretty attractive, especially for a stabilized asset. But I think for one of the parks, we at least want to do a cash out refinance for the non-stabilized asset into a more Fannie type loan, just like we have on the other one, and then potentially hold it long term and buy out the investors, or we sell at that 5-year mark and get our return. In terms of type of investor we're looking to sell to, I think the reason why we decided to do this as a portfolio venture is because it's closer to that institutional level size for a stabilized deal. I mean, all these funds that want to buy this type of real estate don't want to put in the work to actually get it to be stabilized. They want someone else like It's like us to do that. So I think we're going to try to target a private equity level size buyer, potentially institutional. It might be too small for those larger groups, but it's definitely a private equity size buyer who's looking for a stabilized asset.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, cause like in multifamily, anything under 150, people are like, no, it's not worth the time,
Right.
when you're like a institutional fund. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like they usually target 300, that's like their
Yeah.
median size is what I've kind of seen. So I was like, yeah, if people are buying into like 80 units, that's interesting. It might be because also it's cash heavier, I'm guessing. And also follow up on that, ignore what I just said. Michael, you asked, is there any appreciation on mobile home parks, or is it entirely a cash flow play? Basically, are cap rates going down for mobile home
Oh,
parks?
yeah, they definitely are. They're compressing for sure. Like I think some people have been buying like stabilized mobile home parks for 6 caps, depending on the market. It's like, I mean, yeah, mobile home parks are definitely we're getting a lot more traction and appeal, I guess, in the institutional money. Um, but it's not just cash. Like a lot of it is cash flow, but I think the stabilized asset with tenant-owned homes and city water sewer, those are like kind of more turnkey, so it is kind of more appealing to those people. Or correct me if I'm wrong or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, no, I think what you said is logical. I don't really have anything to add to that. But I will say that it's mainly the land that appreciates. The homes
Yeah.
definitely depreciate. That's what I
That's
will
the big
also
thing,
say. So
What's the lifetime of these buildings usually? Is there like are they built for like 30 years? Like what's,
like the homes, it depends on the upkeep and how well you actually maintain it. We've seen homes that date all the way back to 1965 and they're absolute garbage. But I'd say like relatively, these probably will have a 25 to 30 year lifetime, maybe a little bit less. Nick, if you have any insight on that.
That's my understanding too. I mean, it's not as long as like a nice brick home that built in the 1800s or something, but yeah, it's not gonna last that long, but it's definitely depreciating. I kind of look at it as like a car. Like when you buy a car, it really starts depreciating. It's kind of we look at a mobile home.
makes sense. Vince asked this, I could probably answer this too. What's the eviction process look like? It's pretty similar to normal multifamily. I can't, it's generally
So
something you gotta,
it's actually a little bit more difficult depending on
Oh.
what type of tenant you have. So this is actually something we had talked about with a property manager who said, I will not manage a tenant owned home park. And here's why. ladies and
oh,
gentlemen.
gotcha.
Because
Yeah.
the tenant owns their home, right? Okay. So their home is on your land. And to remove a mobile home park from your land, it costs upwards of $8,000 to just move the home. You think these guys have $8,000 in savings account? Probably not. So it's very, very difficult to evict someone out of their own home that they own, unless you can prove that they haven't made payments. And if they own it outright, that's even a bigger problem. Because, at the end of the day, who's going to pay for the property to be moved? It's most likely going to fall on ownership. So it's expensive. But again, right, that's why you have a good vetting process.
Are you allowed to put a lien and then like foreclose on their home?
I'm not sure. I'm sure in Florida being, more business friendly it is, but again, I don't know all the details. All I know is that these tenant owned homes can sometimes provide to be a bit of the pain in terms of eviction. But we haven't dealt with anything like that. So
Is it the
Okay.
same civil procedure though? You have to take them to court. And
yes, yes, all that. Yes.
And then a sheriff has to come and get their
Mhm.
mobile home off your land.
So that's where the difficulty comes in, right? Because your standard sheriff doesn't have a trailer to drag
To tow
these things
them.
off, right?
Yeah.
To tow them. So that's like where it comes down to who's going to pay for it. Is it going to come out of the insurance if the owner even owns insurance, or is it going to come out of the pocket? Things like that. So it's just there'll be growing pains once we get there, but for now,
Right.
we haven't had the pleasure of
Yeah.
experiencing that.
Follow up on that too is it depends on your state. Some have lien theory, some have title theory. But for example, in Texas, the way that it's set up is that I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to foreclose and evict somebody out of the home that they own. So like your state laws will determine whether or not you can actually get rid of them too. So that, the owner owned properties make it a bit harder once you deal with stuff like that. Yeah, okay, let me keep going. We're almost nearing end of time, so if you guys have questions, like jump in now. But are you allowed to add more pads? How do you do that? Do you like fight the city and get it upzoned? And then what's your tenant base? I think this was answered earlier, but
Yeah.
it's not military. It's just general.
It's not military. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tenant base is not military. It's mainly blue collar workforce, manufacturers, things like that, food service industry. So are you allowed to add more pads? That's a good question. So it depends on where you are. You know, some of the pads that, or some of the deals that come across Nick and I's desk weekly, they say, hey, you know, zone to add another 50 pads. But this thing is in the middle of Alabama where like 5,000 people live. So it's like, do I really want to add 200 more pads to my site when I'm going to be holding a tenth of the population of my mobile home park? Yeah, probably not. So, you know, that's a pass. But for example, for Pensacola, a lot of these sizes are grandfathered in, right? So like it isn't even being like, basically if somebody wants to rezone it, they can never rezone it for more mobile home parks just because Pensacola is not. So it's very limited inventory. Again, it depends on where you are, what the state laws are, and actually what the municipality in general holds for the community, right? Some municipalities are like, I don't really care. You guys can go build another 200 sites. Some are like, we want to get rid of this thing. So like, please like rezone it into multifamily or like a single family home division, something like that. You never know. So
Yeah, just in general, most cities don't want more mobile home parks.
that's
a lot
true.
of them
Yes.
are being phased out, and they're only mobile home parks because they've been mobile home parks for like the last 30 years or something, right? So yeah, that's why supply is getting lower, which might be why cap rates are going up. But just in general, land appreciates, right? Properties, not that much. So even in Austin here, it's like everyone, like if you do the math, it's like most of that growth attributes to the fact that there's not enough land to buy, and everyone wants a single family home with a backyard when you could put like a 4-unit in that same space if this was like Chicago. But no one cares about that because you're in Texas and you want your own backyard. So as a result, you have prices go up like 20% in the last year. So, but yeah, thank you again for your time. I know this has been like a long hour of just throwing questions because this is generally what happens. Is there anything else you want to end with? Like, do you have advice for people starting out and trying to get into mobile home parks? And then after that, any other closing statements?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, my 2 cents is, you know, figure out why you want to do mobile home park investing versus something a little bit easier to get into and how you're going to operate it. That's the biggest question. How are you going to operate it, right? Is it something in your backyard where you can go watch every day or every hour? Or is it like you're in Hawaii like I am and you're going to try to invest in Florida, right? It's difficult. But, you know, make sure you have some experienced partners that are working with you if you decide to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah. How about you, Nick? Any things you regret doing starting out that you wish you could have changed?
I guess not. You know, I think things have worked out pretty well so far. Yeah, just definitely be careful with the space. It's definitely a challenging space. So definitely, like, reiterate Hersh said, just find trusted partners who might know the market really well. Things like the loan stuff, like there's a lot of issues that, or maybe like potential issues I might face, during that process. Because again, like you guys mentioned before, it's like a lot of mom and pop owners with very bad financials, and you're having all these different people that you need to appease. So it's a fun space. I feel like maybe my biggest advice is don't be afraid. Like be aware like of the risks and the work it takes to get like the park stabilized, but being afraid of entering asset class is not the way to go. I think it's kind of the reason why I think we love mobile home parks, because a lot of people are afraid of it, and we aren't afraid to dive in, do the dirty work to get something done. So just get out of your comfort zone and figure it out.
All right, sounds good. Thank you everyone for your time. I think we're going to call it because it's 8 o'clock. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll catch you later on in the group still. So, oh yeah, Nick, how do we find you? Yeah, add your data.
I just put my LinkedIn profile there. Feel free to connect with me. I'd love to talk to you offline if you have more questions, or I don't know, if you're in the market and interested in investing, I'm willing to work with you as well. If you want to contact me, my email is I'm gonna put in the chat too. It's Nick at Rai Vu. Shoot, can't type and speak at the same time apparently. That's my email. Yeah, feel free to send us an email. Love to talk to you guys.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
See you guys.